Hello and welcome to this video on how to find the upper and lower bounds. So if you are preparing for GCSE Maths and aiming for a top grade, you are in the right place. So my name is E and I have been tutoring Maths since 2016. So far, I have supported nearly 300 students and delivered over 10,000 hours of one-to-one tuition. I specialize in GCSE Maths, A-level Maths, and also A-level further Maths. So I hold a first-class honor degree in Maths and distinction in a master's degree from King's College London. So I'm also a qualified teacher in a secondary school as well. So I'm proud of the consistent result my students achieve. For those who have worked with me for over 6 months, 100% of students who started with a B or A reach at least an A, and 70% of them achieved an A star. So even students who began at a C or lower also made significant progress. So with 80% improved by 2 whole grades. So in this video, I will walk you through this, how to find in the upper bound and the lower bound step by step. Make sure it's clear, practical, and exam focused. So let's get started. Okay, so for this question, write down the lower bound and upper bound for each of the following. So for part A, 4 gram measured to the nearest gram. So when I say measure to the nearest gram, so nearest gram is nearest 1 gram. So we first divide 1 gram by 2, then we will have 0.5 gram. Use 4 minus 0.5, which is 3.5 gram. This will be our lower bound. And then to find the upper bound, we just use 4 plus 0.5. Then 4.5 gram will be our upper bound. So that's how we find in the upper bound and lower bound for this question. Question C. So 75 miles given to the nearest mile. So given to the nearest mile is nearest 1 mile. First, we divide 1 mile by 2. Then we will have 0.5 mile. Use 75 minus 0.5, which will give us 74.5 miles. So this will be our lower bound. And then to find the upper bound, we use 75 plus 0.5. Then we have 75.5 miles. So that will be our upper bound. So that's basically how we find the upper bound and lower bound. So sometimes they may not give you to the nearest gram. It could be to the nearest like 10 kg, or to the nearest 10 seconds, or to the nearest 5 kilometer. So let's have a look how we find those. So if the question say to the nearest 10 kg, so we start from 10 kg, again, we divide it by 2, then we will have 5 kg. So to find the lower bound, we use 50 kg minus 5 kg, which will give us 45 kg. And then to find the upper bound, we use 50 kg plus 5 kg. So then the upper bound will be 55 kg. So that's how we find the upper and the lower bound. So doesn't matter what they give you. So as long as you divide it by 2 and then add it or subtract it to the original value, then that will be our upper and the lower bound. So for question F, it says to the nearest 5 kilometer. So again, we start from 5 kilometer and then we divide it by 2, then we will have 2.5 kilometer. So the lower bound, we use 225 minus 2.5. Then 222.5 kilometer will be our lower bound. And the upper bound, we use 225 plus 2.5. Then that will be 227.5 kilometers. That would be the answer. Okay, let's have a look at next question. So this one, it says, write down the error interval of each measurement. So they didn't use the phrase upper bound or lower bound, they used error interval. So The way to solve it is the same. It's just at the end, we need to write into a different form. So let me show you how this works. So this one says to the nearest centimeter. Again, nearest centimeter will be nearest to 1 centimeter. So half this first, we have 0.5 centimeter. So the lower bound for this will be 7 minus 0.5, which gives us 6.5 centimeter. And then upper bound will be 7 plus 0.5, which will give us 7.5 centimeter. So now we find the lower bound and we find the upper bound to write as an error interval. So we should write like this. So it's always x and then more than equal to and then less than. So more than equal to the lower bound, which is 6.5, and then less than the upper bound, which is 7.5. So the reason we use less than, not less than or equal to, is because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will round up. So it won't give us x. It won't give us 7 if you use 7.5. That's why we don't use 7.5. So we just use less than 7.5. Because 7.5 will round up to 8, not 7. That's the reason. Okay. And then for next question, it says to the nearest 10 gram. So 10 gram divided by 2, we have 5 gram. Then the lower bound will be 120 minus 5, which is 115 gram. And the upper bound will be 120 plus 5, which is 125 gram. Then the error interval will be x. So more than equal to the lower bound, which is 115 gram. And then less than the upper bound, which is 125 gram. That's how we work it out. Okay. And then let's have a look at another question. For example, all right, let's have a look at another question. So for this one, 6.4 gram rounded to 1 decimal place. So if we're looking for the upper bound and lower bound, the way to do this is similar to before, but we need to find what's the nearest figure. So 1 decimal place, this is the 1 decimal place. That's to the nearest 0.1 gram. So now we know it's to the nearest 0.1 gram. We divide by 2, then we have 0.05 gram. So the lower bound for this will be 6.4 minus 0.05, which is 6.35 gram. And then upper bound will be 6.4 plus 0.05, which is equal to 6.45 gram. That's how we find the upper and the lower bound. So for question I, if we want to find the upper and lower bound for this one, it has 2 decimal places. So this 0 is 1 decimal place. And then 7 will be the 2 decimal places. So 2 decimal places, it should means to the nearest 0.01 gram. Again, we half it, then we get 0.005 gram if we divide 2 from 0.01. And then lower bound would be, so the lower bound would be 0.07 minus 0.005. Then we have 0.065 gram. And then upper bound is 0.07 plus 0.005. Then we have 0.075 gram. So that's how we find the upper and the lower bound. So let's have a look at significant figures. Write down the lower bound and upper bound for each of the following. So 4 miles correct to 1 significant figure. So significant figures always start from the left-hand side. So if it's 1 significant figure, 4 itself is 1 significant figure. So that means it's to the nearest 1 miles. So we divide 1 mile by 2, then we have 0.5 miles. And then lower bound is 4 minus 0.5, which is 3.5 miles. And the upper is 4 plus 0.5, which is 4.5 miles. That's how we're finding the upper and the lower bound. Okay, so for question B, 30 centimeter rounded to one significant figure. So one significant figure has to be, so start from the left-hand side, this would be one significant figure. And then that should be to the nearest 10 centimeter. So 10 centimeter divided by 2, we have 5 centimeter. So lower is 30 minus 5, which is 25 centimeter. And then upper is 30 plus 5, which is 35 centimeter. And that's how we find them. So let me just give you some examples to check, like what kind. Well, let me give you some more examples. So for question C, 900 milliliter given to one significant figure. So one significant figure start from the left-hand side will be this place. That should be to the nearest 100 milliliter. So divide by 2, we have 50 milliliter. Then lower should be 900 minus 50, which is 850. And then upper is 900 plus 50, which is equal to 950. Then that will be the answer. And then for question D, because 0 is not significant at the front. So that's why one significant figure should be to this place. So that will be to the nearest 0.1 meter. Then if we divide by 2, we have 0.05. The lower is 0.2 minus 0.05, which is 0.15 meter. And then upper is 0.2 plus 0.05, which is 0.25 meter. That's how we solve this. So if we have like a 2 significant figure or 3 significant figure, it follows the same logic. So if we look at question F, 2 significant figure. So start from the left, this place is 1 significant figure. And then 2 significant figure should be 8. And then 8 is like 80. So it should be to the nearest 10 gram. Then divide by 2, we have 5 gram. So the lower should be 280 minus 5, which is 275 gram. And then upper is 280 plus 5, which is 285 gram. That's how we find the upper and lower bound. And then let's have a look at another one. So this one is 3 significant figures. So 1 significant figure, 2 significant figure, 3 significant figure. So 8 is unit. So that means it's to the nearest 1 gallon. So if it's to the nearest 1 gallon, that divided by 2 will be 0.5. So lower is 748 minus 0.5, which is 747.5. And then upper is 748 plus 0.5, which gives us 748.5. That's how we find the upper and the lower bound.
Press.
I hope you find this video helpful in understanding how to find the upper and the lower bounds. If you did, please give a like, subscribe to the channel, and then leave a comment below if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help. If you think a friend might benefit from this, feel free to share it with them. And if you are looking for a professional maths tutor who is result focused and fit to budget, head over to spires.com, where you can find the right support for your learning journey. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.